I think we can all agree that over the last 3 years, the Brooklyn Nets have had zero handle on the situation of their own franchise. When they added Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, I don't think they really understood what they were doing. Yes, two of the greatest players over the last 10 years, Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. We all can agree. We all can agree. But they also added two guys who, in Kyrie Irving's case, never won over 30 regular season games until LeBron James came back to Cleveland. And in Kevin Durant's case, had to leave Oklahoma City for the team that beat him in the playoffs just to win two championships. When you add two guys like that, it's not a good recipe for team success. And in my opinion, Brooklyn needs to lay in the bed that they made because this was just a terrible decision from the beginning. Especially in this player empowerment era, it never was a good idea to begin with. And it's easy to say in hindsight. Hindsight's always 2020. But I think if you would have, I don't know. I think it's just that it was a terrible idea, and we're seeing the culmination of that happen now. Now, listen, if your favorite team is even talking about trading for Kevin Durant, you need to run to blog posts, you need to run to Twitter, you need to run to Instagram, you need to run to anything you can to tweet, to post, to try to get your favorite team's attention that you as a fan base do not want Kevin Durant to be traded for to your team. Here's the thing. With Kevin Durant's contract, if you're trading for Kevin Durant, you're going to have to give up somebody that has a big contract as well, a.k.a. someone that's probably a good player. Because the way it is right now in the NBA, there's not a lot of terrible players with really high-value contracts. And guess what? The only one who has a very, very, very bad contract is Ben Simmons, and he's on the Brooklyn Nets already. So you're looking around the league. Listen, even Trae Young, who makes as much money as he does, I wouldn't trade him for Kevin Durant. I'm not trading Anthony Edwards for Kevin Durant. I'm not trading Cade Cunningham for Kevin Durant. I'm not trading Scotty Barnes, Evan Mobley. I wouldn't even trade Karl Anthony Towns for Kevin Durant. Here's the thing. Look, Kevin Durant sits right now at number 24 all time on the scoring list at 25,526 points. If he matches the production that he had this year, he's going to pass Hakeem for 14th all time and become one of 14 guys who have 27,000 plus points. However, the more important number is that Kevin Durant is going to turn 34 this year. And if you look at a lot of the names that are, especially in the top 10 of the all-time scoring list, but also just towards the top of the list in general, after you hit that number 34 mark, your scoring not only goes downhill, but your health goes downhill, your overall impact as a player goes downhill. LeBron and Kareem are completely excluded from the conversation. Possibly two of the most incredible athletes to ever enter the NBA, especially in LeBron's case. There's a reason those two are at the top, and they haven't gone downhill is because there's something different about those two as human beings. But everybody else, Karl Malone, Kobe Bryant. Well, Karl Malone, not actually. So sorry. Karl Malone, that's just, I don't really have an explanation for Karl Malone. He just did it he did it till he was like 39. So I guess that's not true. But Kobe, Dirk, Wilt, Julius Erving, Moses Malone, Shaq, Carmelo, Hakeem, Oscar, Dominique, George Gervin, Tim Duncan, Paul Pierce. Like it's a running theme with many of these guys who are towards the top of the NBA scoring list. After they hit 34, all of these guys either just had their production just went down because they got old. They had injury history injuries, just injuries in general, that led them to missing games. And, if you're trying to trade for Kevin Durant at this point, you have to understand what the track record is of these guys who are at this age and have done it for this long. And Kevin Durant's been doing it it's going to be year 16 this year. I'm not I'm not willing to say, if I'm the GM of somebody who has young talent, I'm not willing to say it's a good move to trade for Kevin Durant and give up a possible 8 to 12 year period of a prime of somebody like a Cade Cunningham or somebody like a Ja Morant or somebody like an Anthony Edwards or somebody like, any of these young players that we love in today's NBA. It's not worth it, and I don't think at this point there's nothing there's also nothing that Brooklyn could give my team to make it worthwhile for the future. Because if I'm giving up the future of my team, I need the future of your team too. I don't just need the next 1 to 2 years of your team. I need something that you're looking forward to in the next 6 to 10 years. Brooklyn doesn't have anything that they could give to any team that's like, okay, yeah, in 6 to 10 years, this is really going to work out for you. In 6 to 10 years, this is going to work out for us too. But, Brooklyn just doesn't have anything to say, here's this, wait on it, and it'll be worth it. They have nothing to say that with. And for pretty much also that reason alone, a trade for Kevin Durant is nowhere near worth it. Again, I don't want this to come off as like I'm just a hater of Kevin Durant. I think Kevin Durant is the most unstoppable scorer that we have in the NBA right now. I think he's the most unstoppable shooter that we've had in the NBA ever. I think he's an incredible player all time. And again, he's going to become probably a top 10 scorer of all time when you look at the points produced by these guys. But when you look at the future of your team and you try to consider how Kevin Durant affects your future, if you trade for him and you give up your young talent now, it's just one of those moves where you can see it in 3 years. You could say, wow, this was a completely terrible trade. And it just doesn't make any sense. And look, Brooklyn already is facing this conundrum. They traded an all-star point guard who, look, D'Angelo Russell is not the guy that we thought he was 4 years ago when he was in the all-star game. But you already have traded an all-star young 23-year-old, 23, 24, 25-year-old point guard in D'Angelo Russell for Kevin Durant, who honestly has done nothing more in the playoffs than D'Angelo Russell did for Brooklyn. So it's kind of like, and that's not even every young guy that they've traded away to make Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving happy. Because look at how many players they had to trade away just so they could get James Harden, and James Harden was going to be the missing piece to the big three for Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. Those two guys have completely destroyed Brooklyn as a franchise for their future. They've given up Jarrett Allen. They've given up D'Angelo Russell. They've given up Karis LeVert. They've given up, like, they give $18 million a year to Joe Harris, and he doesn't play a single game this year. They gave up, they gave up James Harden for Ben Simmons, so I guess that wasn't that big of a deal. But, like, just what this franchise has done just to get Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving to come to the franchise, and then what they've done since, it's safe to say that the addition of Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, especially, I won't say especially Kevin Durant, but just the addition of both those guys in general has been a terrible idea, and it's led to a complete train wreck in Brooklyn. They've been the biggest train wreck over the last 3 years than any other franchise in the NBA. Shoot, any other franchise in sports in general, I don't think has fallen on their face harder over the last 3 years than Brooklyn. So if you're one of these 29 other NBA teams, keep that in mind, please, because I don't want to see you throw away your future for 1 year of a second round exit.